Thank you very much, sir, for such, I think, illuminating landscape of what is happening to India, particularly from the perspective of regulatory, I think, developments. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
And it's not tough one at all. You have been handling things which I'll talk maybe a little more. I think maybe just to introduce, myself. I worked about 2 decades with Reserve Bank of India. So, sir was my boss at the Reserve Bank. I have worked with many other stalwarts. You know that he is known as the fintech DG, but while at the bank in our earlier days, we used to write some notes, and then in a very typical way, Reserve Bank uses different colors of papers. I think that has gone now. Some are called, thick blue. So I think we never understood how thick blue paper becomes yellow in color. Okay, so in many of those notes, we used to write the bank decides such and such things. Okay, I used to wonder who is this the bank. Some of our seniors actually then told the bank in those notes practically means the deputy governor. Now you know what I mean. So we have the deputy governor in charge of not just payment system and fintech. I think many of you have not been possibly following. He is the deputy governor in charge of financial market. He is the deputy governor in charge of forex operation. He is the deputy governor in charge of many other stuff, and also a turbulent time when economy is passing through. He is also the deputy governor of managing overall liquidity of the economy. So, sir, I think we have less word of appreciation to tell the central bankers what you have been doing, particularly during this turbulent time when morning and evening tariff rate changes. So I think thank you for doing such enormous service to the nations. I think we cannot thank you enough, particularly dealing with the liquidity issues at present India's economy has been facing. So now coming back to maybe a couple of questions. We have been saying JAM Trinity, but JAM Trinity has moved from JAM to UPI to ULI. Basically now Trinity itself has moved to 3 different Trinities. So in this space, while you spoke about the big picture of ULI, the one part I think which is more relevant for us, particularly the context of financial inclusion, if you can elaborate the nuances of financial inclusion that would be ushered in by ULI and the role of fintech in it. I'll start with this, then I'll follow.
Thank you. In a public sector setup, it is never one person who is responsible or for anything, but nor is one person solely responsible for the changes that come in. It's always a teamwork. I know it's a cliche, but it is actually true. If you go through one proposal of a new thing, you will never know which of all those people who have put up those proposals is actually responsible for the change. And since you talked about the colors of papers, my first experience, one of my very first experiences in the Reserve Bank, I joined in Trivandrum, was when my boss asked me to go and get some thick blue paper. I went and looked around in the cupboard. I found a thin blue paper and I found a thick green paper. But I never found, there was also yellow and white. So I didn't find thick blue. So I thought maybe, his idea of thick and thin, maybe relative. So I got the thin blue paper. He was mad. He said, "This is draft paper. You can't be giving this paper to me. Go get thick blue." I said, "There is no thick blue." Then he walked up with me and he said, "Look at this thick blue." I looked at it, looked green to me. Then I thought maybe, blue and green are right next to each other in the color spectrum. Maybe I'm a little colorblind. It is actually green. But to this day, it is called thick blue paper. So everyone knows what it is, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, yeah, it was such an interesting thing that I thought I should tell you. Coming to the inclusion potential of ULI, the objective I have, the ultimate objective that we all have, is not just for a borrower of a bank or an NBFC accessing that bank or that NBFC for a loan. I'm thinking of a system where any person can access this system, gives consent to use his databases, bank accounts and others, applies for a loan. The loan engines of all the lenders are linked to this system. They process this using the data that is also linked to this system, and they offer different amounts, maybe different rates, different terms. And the customer has the choice of picking which of those loans is most suitable. That is the sort of ultimate ambition that we have on this system. The example I gave of KCC loans, where a month's work and uncertainty is replaced by 15 minutes of work, is a very good indication of the inclusion potential that it has. But more importantly, what we are looking at is that this is the DPI that has been created. Now it is up to the fintech and the startup ecosystem, who will, like you all have access to UPI or other, will have access to this as well, this system, can develop use cases, can develop products, can ensure using data that you don't have to wait for credit history before someone can be extended a loan. That, in my view, will be the ultimate access, ease of access to credit, which this system can do. One specific point I thought in this context I must tell you, that Reserve Bank is interested in setting in place innovations only if they are population scale, only if they have a macro impact, and only if they are infrastructural. We leave the use case innovations in use of data, innovation in process, everything to the fintech ecosystem and any other products. So in our minds, that space is very clear. We are interested in developing infrastructural facilities, not in developing products, not in developing facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. And then maybe other question I have is about central bank digital currencies in particular. How do you incorporate or how do you perceive the role of fintechs in CBDCs?
I remember about some months back, we had a weekend sort of session with the relevant RBI officials, the banks, and the fintech ecosystem. For the first time, we involved the fintech ecosystem in discussing threadbare on how CBDCs can be used by the fintech ecosystem. What I remember from that meeting, apart from a lot of other things that we decided we should be doing, is the excitement and the suggestion that came from the fintech entrepreneurs at that time. They were exact, to the point, and virtually all of them, I think they came up with 3 or 4 suggestions. All of them were, once we saw those things, were implementable and desirable. So I think the ecosystem understands. Sometimes this question arises, why should someone use both within RBI, outside RBI, everywhere. Why should we bother about CBDC when I have UPI, which is just as good? UPI is very good. CBDC, since it's also digital money, will also be good once it's rolled out full scale. At the very least, customers will have a choice. But I briefly referred to the fact that it is digital money issued by government/central bank. You see, traditionally, there are two types of money. Basically, there are two types of money. There is money issued by a central bank. There is money issued by commercial banks. Commercial bank money is credit or deposits, whichever way you look at it. They're both sides of the same thing. Central bank money used to be paper money. Central bank money had advantages because it doesn't require an intermediary to authenticate a transaction, which you require for bank money. Central bank money had complete faith of the population, and transactions were easy. Generally, you just hand over and transaction is complete. They had disadvantages. You can't do large value transactions, and you cannot do transactions across time or space. You have to carry money from point A to point B geographically, which is an advantage for bank money because they were digital. Now imagine the central bank paper money has become digital, which you don't have to imagine, which is what CBDC is. Now they have all the advantages that central bank money had to begin with, and all the disadvantages that they had vis-a-vis digital bank money have disappeared. Potentially, they are a far more sort of flexible instrument. CBDC is both a payment instrument and money. You can store it. UPI is a payment instrument, extremely efficient, probably the most efficient in the world, but it's a payment instrument. It's not money itself. So by their very nature, CBDC is distinct. And I'm sure, as the fintech community gets seriously into innovating on CBDCs, we have actually allowed some of them to come onto the CBDC pilots. More will come in over a period of time. I think they will innovate in ways that I have not imagined so far, and they will exploit these advantages that CBDC has. I also told you about the cross-border advantage that only CBDC can solve. And I'm not exaggerating. I have so far not seen any use case which potentially can solve the problem of cross-border money transfer. Only CBDC has the ability to solve it. So I think CBDC is the form of money, form of payments for the future. It may take some time. There are competing products like private digital currencies, which incidentally lack the basic advantage of a CBDC, which is it is government issued. And the stable forms of money across history have been forms of money issued by governments or kings or rulers. Those are the most stable ones. So I think that potential is great.
Thank you for that wonderful keynote and also taking questions from the audience. Thank you so much for joining us.